afternoon, honorable members. Can you hear me? Hello? Honorable members, can you hear me?
Good afternoon. Yes, I can.
Okay.
Yeah, you Chair.
Honorable America. Okay, honorable members, it has just gone past 2 o'clock, and I would like us to start our meeting of the Standing Committee on Public Accounts of the Western Cape. Before we may start, can I get an indication of members? As you know, that there is Honorable Seleko as well as indicated. I think before we may start, honorable members, for official purposes, can I get an indication of the members that are present, and if those members can just state their name and surname. Over to you, honorable members.
Good afternoon, Chair. Derek America, member of the committee.
Thank you very much, Honorable America.
Good afternoon, Aisha Kasim.
Thank you very much, Honorable Kasim.
Afternoon, Chair. Mbulelo Isaac Sileku, member of the committee. Good afternoon.
Thank you very much, Honorable Seleko. If there is no further members, Honorable America, can I get an, sorry, man, Mr. Davids, can I get an indication whether did you receive any apologies or any indication of members who might come?
Chairperson. Oh, Chairperson, good afternoon, Chairperson, honourable members. Chair, there was no apologies, Chair. Chair Member America just alerted me to the fact that there's another meeting link, and there's some people that's waiting in that meeting that's supposed to be in this meeting. So I'm just sorting it out quickly, Chairperson. I'm just emailing all of them with the correct invite link, Chairperson. Most of them are joining now, Chair.
Okay, excellent. Thanks very much, Mr. David. Honorable members, as you have received the notice, it's for purposes of looking on those items that are listed there in the agenda, which has been circulated to you. And then among other issues is the issues of us meeting with the Provincial Treasury Department of the Premier, as well as the Audit Committee. Then we'll also be again dealing with the issue of the Premier's Department as well on the issue of the sitters. Then we'll also be dealing with the Department of Education on Funza, Lushaka, and also be dealing with the Department of Economic Development and Tourism. Now, I notice the usual item we normally have as a standing SAPEC is not there, but if there is some information we have, Mr. Davis, you may please share it with us towards the end of the meeting. But also, honorable members, let me also bring to your attention that regarding item 5 on the economic development and tourism, on the history, progress, challenges, and status of the township revitalization program, I was approached by the Honorable Minister Wenger regarding the matter, and I did indicate to her that I was going to consult with the members of the committee, but unfortunately, I was unable to do that. But I think it was around the issue that maybe the item was actually wrongly captured, and therefore the committee is not the committee that should be dealing with it. And then I was going to kind of canvass that issue and that view among members. And obviously, if there is a different view or other members, I would have wanted to do it before this, but I think we can raise that. I can make use of that opportunity and raise it here. and get the views of the members. And then if it's agreeable, maybe it's a matter that might belong to another committee. And then we can maybe if it's in that regard, we can release those people that were supposed to be part of the meeting, or we can choose to say, look, we'll deal with it anyway. If the members, if the officials are ready with it, or we can refer it to a committee that we feel that it's a relevant committee. I just feel that let me raise that with members, and the members can feel free to engage on the matter on how we must actually deal with it. Honorable members. I take it then that if on members are quiet on the matter, then I will take it that silence means consent. We will.
No, Chairperson.
I could not hear you.
No, for sure. My view is that if it doesn't fall within the ambit of this committee, and then it must be referred to the committee where it is accountable to, and not to this committee. So I'm not in favor of us dealing with matters that is not within the jurisdiction or within the ambit of this committee's mandate. That's my view. Other members might feel differently. Thank you. Chairperson, are you there? There are multiple meetings going on here.
Yeah, sorry for that, member America. Lizette just called me now, and she's just calling everyone into the meeting where there's 17 other people. So I really don't know where the confusion came from. That there's two separate meeting links. My sincerest apologies for that, members. We're just trying to sort that out. Lizette did indicate now that she's going to call everyone into the meeting, which she is in at this moment in time with about 17 members.
finalize the APPs, and when departments get the final allocations, normally during the month of February, where we find ourselves at the moment, they would then make sure that the different documentation and budgets align. However, Chair, the question relates to obviously the different targets. And if one goes to the Department of Health, basically it was 2 programs, Program 2 and also Program 4. And specifically in relation to the Department of Health, the committee must understand there is something called sector target. So the National Department of Health, together with the provincial departments, will determine certain, let's call it national indicators that they would like to track as part of the different programs. And that then becomes standardized indicators, which will have to go into the respective APPs. And then, at the end of the year, those APP targets are then indicated. And throughout the year, Chair, as you're well aware, we also complete something called a QPR. That's the quarterly performance information, where we actually track progress in relation to these targets. Now, if one go to the Department of Health, where the matter actually emanated, for Program 2, they've achieved 13 out of the 32 targets, and they've spent 99% of their budget. For Program 4, they've achieved 7 out of the 16 targets, and they spent 100% of their budget. The point I want to make to the committee here today is, if somebody says that I've achieved, let's say, 1 out of my 2 targets, it doesn't necessarily mean that the target that they have not achieved, that they haven't made any progress towards it. So if I take the Department of Health as an example, in Program 2, they would have patient experience of core satisfaction rate, and the planned target was 80%. They achieved 74%. And one can actually go through all those deliverables. Immunization rate under 1-year coverage, 86% target, 75% achieved. Now, there are various reasons sometimes why they can't get to some of these targets, but it doesn't mean if they don't get to an 82% target or 85% target that they haven't basically achieved the objectives. So it doesn't mean that they've only spent the same amount of budget onto it, because in the one case, Program 2 as an example, there are 32 targets. Obviously, that's spread across the entire departmental budget, but it doesn't mean if you achieved all those targets that you will suddenly achieve 100% of your target. Some of the targets also, Chair, has been overachieved, and depending on what one deals with. So if I can just use the example of an immunization rate, one doesn't know. Maybe in a year, there's an outbreak maybe of measles, as an example, in children under the age of 1 or maybe 2 or 3. Then the department would target their deliverables towards that particular issue that they need to deal with. And if you think about COVID, as an example, there was an APP that was tabled. Nobody knew COVID came. And then in the year 2020, the department then had to change their entire strategy to actually respond to the COVID pandemic, as an example. So the issue of the targets are then also audited by the Auditor General. And I know the question that came up to say, how can you get a clean audit if you haven't spent all your, if you haven't achieved all your targets? That is not actually how the process works. What the Auditor General does is they come in and they would audit your PDOs, or the predetermined objectives, and it is about disclosure. So if I have 10 targets, and I say to the AXA that I've only achieved 7 targets, AXA come in, they would test whether I've achieved 7 targets. And if I achieve 7 targets, then the Auditor General would say, Harry, I'm happy with you. What you've indicated you've achieved, you have actually achieved. It's not within the mandate to suddenly qualify a department just because the department did not achieve all the targets, because target setting and target achievement is a process. And it's really around the issue of disclosure. So, Chair, that I think deals with the matter. I will also send to the committee the 3 pages that's been jointly prepared between PT and the Department of the Premier. What it does, it gives you an overview of the provincial strategic planning and budgeting process and how it affects targets. It then also speaks to some of the technical requirements and guidance provided for indicated targets, and then also key reference material. So, Chair, I think that is, in a nutshell, actually how it works. So I don't think the committee necessarily needs to be concerned. I mean, if I can express that if a department spends 100% of their budget, that they necessarily had to achieve 100% of their targets. It is a matter of disclosure, and as long as the department can indicate why they've not achieved some of these targets, because I said things actually happen during the year. Obviously, they also get a second bite at the cherry during the adjustments estimate process. And at that stage, they need to make use, of that process to amend some of their targets. But things also happen between November and December. And if you don't achieve a target, then normally you would disclose it in your annual report as an underachievement. And if you've achieved more than what you've planned for, then you would report that as an overachievement. So, Chair, hopefully my explanation provides you with a sort of a bigger sense as to how the process works. But what I think the committee can maybe also do in future, particularly SCOPA, is to maybe start to engage the departments on a quarterly basis, because the different committees, standing committees engage the different departments on a quarterly basis. And maybe, Chair, you can institute a process at SCOPA, where SCOPA actually looks at the stuff at the quarterly basis, and then make sure that you follow the entire process throughout the year. And then when you get to the annual report process, there is actually nothing new. So hopefully, Chair, there is a greater understanding of how the annual budget and expenditure and APP processes work, and how it works to amend the targets, and what it is, is important to do. And in fact, Chair, what I've explained here today is actually relevant for all the departments, but one can understand, health, and health is really on the receiving end. I mean, they basically pick up all the issues that sometimes it even become difficult, to set some of these targets. Like if you must say how many visits, primary healthcare visits you're going to get in a year, you can basically go on the previous year's target, but if your budgets shrink or the situation are different, some of those things may even change during the year. But I can assure you, Chair, I think from an audit perspective, I mean, this is the only Department of Health in the country that received a clean audit. And I mean, they work extremely hard on this stuff, and particularly on the data systems. From a governance perspective, I can indicate to you, even from a performance perspective, that they are really on top of their game, and they try to be responsive as far as possible, to the situations out there, particularly from a health, dealing with some of the health pandemics that we've got. And in fact, they've instituted key processes to make sure, that they run a clean system in their department. So, Linda, before I hand over to the Chair, I don't know if there's anything maybe that you want to add from your side. Thanks.
Thanks, DJ, and through the Chair, maybe just to reiterate the fact that the planning process is dynamic, and the call really is for departments to respond to things that are happening. And in the Department of Health case, that is, especially during the pandemic, it was really, really necessary to change gears. But we also have an indication from the Department of Health that they are on track, and then Provincial Treasury also does a credibility check just to see where the departments find themselves in terms of their final APPs and then the budgets that's being tabled. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Yeah, Member Mumbi, I'm handing back to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, DG, and thank you very much, HOD. Honorable members, there is the explanation that has been given, and it has also been supported by documents that have been circulated to you before the meetings to try and answer some of the questions and concerns you had regarding the mismatch between targets and expenditure. Any questions, points of clarity, or Honorable America?
Thank you, Chairperson, and thank you, Dr. Malila and Ms. Julinda. I have scrutinized the documentation as far as I possibly could, and I'm reasonably satisfied with the content thereof and the explanations given today. And I would like to thank the department as well as the Office of the Premier for guiding our departments in achieving the excellent audit outcomes that we have experienced over the past year. Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am.
Honorable Nkondlo.
Afternoon, Chair, and thank you very much for the inputs. Chair, I think for me, I appreciate, the write-up shared with us with the detail of how the process is run and what goes into the inputs into it. Part of what I think from the audit process, would have wanted clarity on, and I think the challenge from the DG in terms of how, as members, during the annual planning process, we need to sort of also interact through our various standing committees. That one of the things for me that I've always raised, and I think I would want to raise it now, is the issue of baselines. Because one of the things that for me I had observed is the issue that the achievement of the later year, which is a year in audit, versus the previous year performance, what influences targeting down? I don't mind with targeting upwards based on those particular baselines because they are proven a record of performance of a particular department. So I think that this is one issue for me that I'm interested in. The second point is that what's the extent to which we are able to determine not only the quantitative, but the qualitative impact of the targets, that because some of the programs, for example, it may be the number of patients that actually are recorded in a hospital at a particular point in time. It may be 100 or it may be 50, but how do we determine, a high level impact, of the services that are being provided? So for me, I think it's always those kind of issues that one is interested to understand in terms of target setting. Thank you very much.
DG, HOD, you decide who's going to answer?
Yeah, Chair, no, thank you very much. I mean, I can go and Zelinda can add. Thank you very much for those questions by Member America. Thank you for the comments, and also Member Nkundla, thank you for those questions. I mean, the questions by Member Nkundla is actually the issue that we need to deal with. Firstly, what influenced the targets to go down? I mean, there are many factors that influence the targets. The big thing is obviously the fiscal environment. I mean, if one look at the budget of the Department of Health, I mean, the key components there are really, some conditional grant funding, which we're getting from national, and obviously if that funding drops or it's got other conditions attached to it, depending on, where National Department of Health wants to go with some of the key objectives, then that can influence the target from one year to another year. So as an example, the National Department may decide, so this year we're going to focus on HIV/AIDS, and we're not going to focus on another area that's potentially funded, also by a conditional grant. So it's really the fiscal situation. And I mean, Zelinda, I'm sure can also speak to, the issues that we currently dealing with. The other issue that obviously also influenced targets to go down is, I mean, we've got a massive growth in population. So given the fact that health is basically on the receiving end of many of these service load pressures, the particular budget that they get in a year can only go X far. So sometimes they need to change, the approach. And as I said, the third issue is really if we have a massive pandemic, and I can use maybe COVID as an example. If we have maybe a measles outbreak, if there are particular issues that health need to deal with, then they will redirect some of their services and only deal with it at a later stage. And obviously all of that stuff will be reported within their annual report. So there are many factors, Chair, that influence target setting, and particularly those targets that is kind of on the, because they basically, depends on what the demand is for some of these services. Then, Chair, the second question is probably the most important issue. It's about, the qualitative side of some of these indicators. Obviously, these indicators, as I said, are also influenced by what comes from national, because a big chunk of the money comes from national. One also has got your general health or population health indicators that influences a particular response. So I can, as an example, indicate that, I mean, if you look at the province of the Western Cape, I mean, proportionately, we would have more TB cases than any other province, in the country. So if one look at the qualitative side of it is, as an example, our initiatives that we've got in this province, to what extent does it address, cases like TB, and how do we also deal with some of the upstream factors. So it's about water quality. It is about, the quality of, let's call it general living conditions of people. It's also about the quality of some of our health professionals, nursing staff. It's about the quality of our infrastructure. All of those things influence the general health status of your population. And in this province, we also believe that health is also an economic function, because, I mean, if people are healthier, then it means that they can actually, turn up for work, they can be much more active, etc. And then we've got also other initiatives within the health department that actually speaks to like wellness and the whole issue, around people feeling much better. But I agree with the member. I mean, what we try and do year after year is to look at, obviously, the qualitative side of these indicators and making sure, that the population that we serve are actually more healthier, or in this province we call it well, because obviously there are other factors other than just a person's natural health. And we are continuously working on some of these indicators, but we are taking our cue, from obviously international literature on this particular matter, and making sure at least, that we provide a decent service to those that come across our doors at any of our different institutions. I don't know, Jolanda, if you want to add to that point.
Yes, DJ, I just want to add one point, because I think you've covered it, but also maybe how the budget was also responding to that, and that is the funding that we've made available to do monitoring and evaluation. And that then becomes very important to allow that that the planning process is really robust and responsive. And so when an evaluation has been done, it could very well be, in terms of the performance data, that the recommendations from that evaluation would direct the department in a asking firstly maybe to sharpen the approach and the focus, or else then to really look at other areas that would need attention. And that in essence could also have an impact on the movement that the member is seeing in terms of the target. But yeah, it's not just one. There's a number of issues that would influence the movement in terms of the target. Thank you, Chair.
Chair, I think that's it from our side.
Thank you very much. Then, if there are no further members, DG and HOD, one of the issues that was very burning during our meetings of the annual report was, of course, this kind of mismatch. Someone said, look, I've achieved my target, but the money they've spent is low. But in other areas, they've spent all the money, 100%, but the target is very low. And we were saying that there seems to be some mismatch between the targets, and how do you achieve your expenditure is 100%, but the target is very low. I accept all this information that you've given us, quite comprehensive, but it does not practically address the concern that we are having. But maybe I think you've raised a very progressive issue, DG, by saying that maybe we must not wait until the tail end of the year, because when it comes at the tail end, there's nothing we can do. Maybe this quarterly we are talking about might help. It might also help in terms of not only preventative accountability, but also it keeps the committee up to date, so that we can say, no man, last month you were on this point, 3 months ago. Now we're 6 months down the line, we are still here. What is the problem? And then, but otherwise, the information you've said that is very helpful. It's going to help, but at some point we must also begin just to be practical about it. I see Honorable Nkondlo.
No, thank you, Chair. I want to follow on your input to appreciate the response, but further to say, perhaps one of the ways
you want something to eat?
One of the ways we would need assistance on is that, one, I think what we normally see in the annual reports, where when there is something that has changed, perhaps notes becomes another way to simplify and explain, explanatory notes. Because as the DG says, if it is, because it's not always, and we're talking in general terms now, because we're not looking at a specific a target. But if it is, the target has been set down because there has been a change in funding or all this, I think it's one way to consider these explanatory notes because they really help. And because remember, the annual report is not only for ourselves as members, it's also for the public to understand and as part of a transparent government. But also I think it will then, Chair, maybe be part of our own recommendations, maybe to the next administration, that indeed some kind of robustness from the chairpersons of standing committees during the annual report, during the annual planning process, the department's annual planning process, that indeed standing committees must be allowed, or there must be a separate engagement on those issues, so that indeed by the time they come to SCOPA as part of the annual report or audit outcomes, there is better appreciation by members, in as far as how those targets were set. Thank you very much.
Sure.
Thanks very much, Honorable Ngondlo. DG.
Chair, I fully agree with that. In fact, the reality is that by the time that you have oversight over a department's annual report, there's an 18-month difference between the time that somebody tabled their APP and the time that you've got final oversight over it. The other bank that you have would be 6 months down the line when departments table their adjusted estimate. So I agree with Member Nkondlo, is maybe to take a resolution and say that as the scoper, although there's no formal let's call it public accounts on the table, nothing stops you, because your powers is very, very wide as a committee to actually, maybe as part of a general meeting in the department where there's been major changes, that you can actually call in the department and that you can actually talk about some of the performance measures, and that you actually build it into your annual program. So by the time you get to the annual report process, then you are much more cleverer, and that you actually understand exactly what is going on in the department. Thank you.
Thanks, DG. HOD? You're fine.
Yeah, I'm fine.
Honorable Minister? Honorable Minister?
Sorry, Chair.
Any comments, input from your side as we are rounding up?
I think it's, team have shared what we have, and I think that, it's pretty straightforward as it is. Thank you.
Thanks very much, HOD, and thank you very much, Minister. Now, I think we have come to the end of this presentation, honorable members. If there is nothing more, I think we can excuse the department and HOD, but it looks like even the next one is also actually involving you. That is the issue on the delay in the procurement of the sitters during the 2022 and 2023 financial year.
Yeah.
Please go ahead.
Chair, thank you very much for it. I've got Hilton, who is the head of CI, also in the meeting. We have prepared a presentation. Chair, maybe just a couple of comments from my side. If there's one thing that is impacting on the services, and I can say here of all provincial departments and even some of the other departments in other provinces, then it's SETA. Okay, it's one of those institutions that's really impacting, on the service delivery, and particularly in this province. And Chair, I'm not saying something here that I haven't said to the SETA executives. In fact, the National Minister have put together a ministerial task team to look at some of the issues, particularly within the SETA environment, and also particularly how it impacts on our services. The Premier at the last Lekgotla have actually hand-delivered a letter to the Minister responsible for SETA. They've also handed a letter over to the President to talk about, the issues at SETA, but more importantly, to what extent SETA is impacting on our services. Now, obviously, in this province, Chair, CETA is responsible for a range of services, and our services are impacted primarily in the Department of Health, the Department of Education, and obviously also in my own department. And you can also think, Chair, if things at CETA goes wrong or our systems are down, then the entire system is impacted, because of the procurement delays in CETA. Hilton will also talk, just around some of the procurement issues, and you will see some of the statistics here. I'm talking about, sort of single or two-digit numbers in relation to CETA's ability to procure some of the key services that we require in this province. In addition to that, the price range and the stuff that CETA is charging us for, is stuff that we are not happy with. So we have provided the interim ministerial task team with a full-on report on what the issues are at CETA. So if the matters at CETA is not addressed, then I think we are going to be in serious trouble as a public sector. And I think as a provincial government, Western Cape, we are being proactive in terms of dealing with some of the matters, at CETA. You will also see, Chair, that the biggest issue at CETA is by far the issue around management. It's the issue around management stability. And in fact, there are also other matters at play that's currently being investigated by the ministerial task team, of potentially maybe even managers between management and the board where they are not on the same page in relation to many of these things. Chair, what we will also do, and I mean, because this is a public meeting, we will also share this presentation, with the CETA team and with the CETA board, and also with the ministerial task team that's actually been appointed by the minister. So nothing that we're presenting here have they not heard before, and they're not aware of it. But I mean, from a transparency perspective, we will also deal with it. So, Chair, if this committee can influence, the way that CETA runs, also the impact of CETA, I mean, we would really much appreciate it. And I think you will do ourselves, plus the rest of the country, a massive favor if you can use, the outcome of this presentation to influence the work that CETA is doing. So, Hilton, I'm going to hand over to you to explain to the committee exactly what the issues are and where are some of the hiccups with CETA, and also the fact that we are not in a happy space with the current services that we're getting, from the State Information Technology Agency. Hilton?
Thanks so much, DG. Good afternoon, Chairperson. Good afternoon, members, and then also to the colleagues of mine. DG, can I just check, or Chairperson, whether the presentation is clear and visible?
We can see it, Hilton. Proceed.
Thanks so much. So this is just the agenda, the list of things that I will be going through, but I'll start immediately with the first matter, Chair. So CETA has indicated that they have a problem in the procurement space. And in our engagements recently, we have indicated to them that the problem is not in the procurement environment. The problem is at leadership level, because it's due to the leadership incompetencies that we have the problems in our procurement environment. So at leadership level, there's the continual changes at board level, and there's also currently legal challenges between the minister and CETA, and it has a direct adverse impact on the organizational stability and the service delivery to the citizens, as well as governance and performance, because there's no management of performance. Dashboards within CETA has been non-existent since last year. They have started working towards implementing some dashboards to see how they're performing in terms of procurement. And then, Chair, at CEO level, we're now at interim managing director or acting CEO or CEO number 24 in 16 years, which just shows a high turnover at executive level and the top executive over the past 16 years, which result in instability, which result in poor performance. So there's quite a few issues that exist. And in addition to that, they also have the staff exits. So the retirements, resignations, suspensions at technical level, and that impacts our services at the local level, especially severely. At the national level, the retirements and resignations also impacts on the ability, as I said, to render services to the rest of the country. We have drafted a slide in terms of CETA's relevant to the public service because they are not delivering on the mandate for which they've been established. So there's a conflict between the profit motive versus our service delivery motive. And CETA is all about the profits and not necessarily about making sure that we deliver on our services. It has a strong culture of poor performance. As I said, there's no consequence management. Over the past few years, we've continually raised challenges in the procurement environment. We've raised issues that we have with the non-performance and non-delivery, and also the impact that it has on our service delivery, yet there's no consequences on this side. And it seems as if the CETA board members and executives, they do not grasp the negative impact and the gravity of the negative impact that it has on non-delivery to citizens. Of course, where they are looking at the documents and as from a procurement perspective and saying it's a procurement, it's a governance issue. On our side, it's a service delivery issue. It can impact directly on a hospital or clinic or social development office or a school if we do not get our procured machinery and technology in time. They also have a significant high markup rate, which negates the economies of scale that they're supposed to be affecting for departments. And then also, there's a significant amount of bid cancellations due to the on-flawed process. The process works today and next week a process doesn't work, or they have disputes between the internal audit and the legal team, and then a bid gets cancelled. Or at the last minute, it goes to the EBAC, the Executive Bid Adjudication Committee, gets thrown back, and then things get cancelled. And it takes quite a long time to really get back and to procure those services and get it onto our space. So we've done a once-off analysis last year, Chairperson, in May 2023, when we had a visit by the then CEO, Dr. Bongani Mobaso. And that's another challenge that we have. Whenever there's a new CEO, Chairperson, the DG by nature is telling us, please, we need to work with the new managers and we need to work with the new leadership of CETA because we need to collaborate with one another, which I understand is the right approach, Chairperson. But as soon as we got into our strides with the new CEO who has resigned December last year, as soon as we get into our stride, then the CEO resigns and he moves on, or a new CEO gets appointed, and then we have to start all over again. So you never get to that stage where you can really put them on terms and put that CEO, hold that CEO accountable to the comments that he made. The previous IMD, interim managing director of CETA, also committed to certain initiatives that he'll embark on. He was removed, and then the CEO was appointed. He made commitments, and now he was removed. So this SNAP survey is just May last year, which we played back to the CETA team, and that is the CEO in the presence of his executive managers in environment. So we took it the year, we looked at all the bids that were started and were logged with CETA in 2021. And as you can see there, at that stage in 2023, May 2023, 43 were still in invitation phase. 51 were under evaluation and 50 were awarded and cancelled 26. So 29.2% of the 171 bids that were started in 2021, only 30% were successfully completed or awarded, and then 26 were cancelled. So as you can see, the ratio there in terms of awarded and cancelled is 50%. The next year, so we looked at the 2022, and this is once again in May 2023, where under invitation there were 52, under evaluation there were 35, and a year after, 18 months after 2022, or let me say 6 months after 2022, only 8 were awarded, Chair, 7.4%. But look at the cancellations, 13 cancellations. So we need to look at, CETA need to look at why do they have so many cancellations and what is the cause of the high level of cancellations. And so as you can see there, a total of 108, and when you look at the 21 that's been completed means either awarded or cancelled, it's a 20% success rate that they've achieved. So that's just a narrative that speaks to that 20%, Chairperson, where they've achieved way below what they should and what is acceptable. And then also there's this procurement disability or procurement paralysis. There's no predictable standards or consistency in the delivery lead time. So when we joke and it amongst ourselves that a 2-year turnaround time is considered winning the lotto, because we cannot guarantee that we can have anything that we procure via CETA delivered within 2 years. Now, Chairperson, while we're joking, it's really, really unacceptable for us to be servicing our citizens with outdated equipment or not being able to procure in a reasonable turnaround time. Even if it was 9 months, it would have been acceptable. But I'll show you in the next slide the time frames that it really takes to deliver equipment or technology to us. And there's no visibility on the part of departments on the status. So you see this high-level status is up there. It's invitation, under evaluation, it's awarded or cancelled, and that's about it. We do not know where it is. And at that stage, Chairperson, when we did this presentation to CETA, they did not have a similar type of dashboard or age analysis of the procurement initiatives and those that's been started or has been ended or that's in the WAS. They just did not have that information. And there's just too much red tape. Internal audits, external audits, legal reviews. I do not say compromise on governance, Chairperson, by all means. And we do not say circumvent governance, but streamline governance so that we do not have the situation where internal audit for the same organization.
Yes.
And then there's, Chairperson, also the reluctance on the part of ministers to approve the departments or the CETA provincial officers to approve delegations so that they can procure to a higher level. So, and it reflects of an institution that's incapable of delivering on the procurement mandate. Yes, they're holding on to it. They do not want to devolve anything. They do not want to delegate any powers. And they told us 2 years ago, it's a process of having to go via the National Treasury. Then if that's a process, then start the process and tell us what the progress is towards achieving and addressing the issues pertaining to the devolvement of powers or devolvement of delegations. But at this stage, Chairperson, that's always the response that we have. It's a process. So key procurement delays. So these are just 8 of our initiatives over the past year, Chairperson. These are 8, not all of it. But as you can see, the first one, we started that in the 22nd of May 2022, and we've only just received the final offer that we need to approve so that we can issue an order number. So as you can see, the estimated value at that stage was 1.6. With time, the time value of the money, the decreasing of the rand against the dollar, and then also inflation, the price increases, we now have to pay 1.7 million. Similar is the procurement, the number 2, the procurement of Cisco equipment for Groote Schuur Hospital. We started that way back in April 2021, Chairperson. It's 2021, 22, 23, 24. It took us 3 years. And whereas the initial estimate, our budget for that time was 10 million, it's now 13 million. Once again, because of the decreasing value of the rand against the dollar, and then also the price increases of those equipment. And the 5th one is another one, the Department of Health land equipment. 5.4 was our initial estimate. That one started in 2022. It's now 6.4. Now, Chair, this specific session that we have here and the agenda item is based on the question that was raised in the standing committee, where it was asked why did CI underspend on the infrastructure budget, the ICT infrastructure budget, and this speaks directly to it. And you can see that this is the actual numbers, and it correlates with the numbers that's been sent to us in a letter by CETA, the new acting managing director. So it's not as if we're putting different figures to what they've put in there. These are actual figures, and you can see how it impacted on our budgets over the past year or 2 or 3, where we had to try and roll forward funding and we underspent on infrastructure budget. So what were the impacts of the procurement delays? Firstly, we had to sweat our assets way beyond the end of life, and that created a risk for us, Chairperson. It impacted service quality, it impacted service continuity, because infrastructure that's outdated obviously had to be maintained much more, and the ability for it to fall over is much higher than your latest equipment. Also, the high levels of capex budgets that were underspent in prior financial years. And as I said, that is one of the questions that was raised in our standing committees pertaining to underspending, but you can see the reason why we underspent. And we also have to pay significantly more for infrastructure. And as I've explained now, due to the time delay, as inflation and the declining value of the rand, it drove up prices over the past few years. As a result of this, Chairperson, our 2024-25 capex budget is already under severe pressure because we've now received these offers that we now need to sign off so that we can issue order numbers, so that order numbers can be issued. And these infrastructure, for the ones that I've just shown in red, those will only be delivered in the next financial year. However, we've also procured infrastructure that needs to be last year that we're also expecting in the next financial year. So it's putting us in a difficult position where we now need to prioritize. And if we do not accept the offer, it will mean that we'll have to restart that procurement process that will take us another 2 years. And by that time, the prices would have gone up with another 2 million or 3 million, depending on what the the rand-dollar exchange rates do, or depending on what the cost increases are, or the price increases are. So, Chairperson, we have taken several measures to address this challenges with CETA. So, we have drafted a WCG and a CETA escalation protocol, meaning that if the procurement is not going according to plan, there's an escalation process that will take us through the various process. And it's been signed off by the previous CEO, Dr. Bongani Mabaso, and our DG. And we've also sent letters to the Minister of DCDT, I can actually say Ministers of DCDT, requesting an increase of the procurement delegations of our CETA provincial offices. Now, Chairperson, that will be a huge win for us, because if CETA can increase the delegations of their own provincial offices, then we can work closer with the provincial office to make sure that we get our procurement initiatives finalized within a reasonable time. At this stage, there are no real timelines. There's no standard timelines. It's just you need to hit and hope and see what happens. We also have started bi-weekly operational meetings, and that's implemented between CETA's head office. It was the former CEO that left last year, Dr. Mabaso, and our team, and Augie de Freitas, our chief director, he's steering that specific sessions where we meet bi-weekly on all the procurement initiatives and make sure that we have people at head office that can look into it and make sure that it drives. The previous engagements that we had with CETA, where we only dealt with the local office, the Western Cape office, did not work because they serve more like a post office, and when they send things up north, things go south, Chairperson. Unfortunately, it just did not materialize. And now that we're working with the national office, it's actually working. We also had monthly Director General CETA CEO meetings when we had the previous CEO, Luvuyo Kihise. That has, since he's left, it's not been reinstated because we had acting CEOs, I think 2 acting CEOs in the meantime, and a CEO formally appointed. And we will be reinstituting that. We have agreed to that in the recent ministerial task meeting. And then recently, Premier has also hand-delivered a letter to the Minister of DCDT and the President, highlighting the CETA procurement challenges. Subsequent to that, Chairperson, the Minister of DCDT established a ministerial task team. And the terms of references here, or just a brief terms, is they've been appointed, the Minister of DCD appointed the ministerial task team to identify issues contributing to the backlog in procurement at CETA and to fast track the resolution thereof. So we had the first engagement with that task team. Chairperson, it was a very tough, very robust engagement. We told them exactly how we felt and that we have zero trust in CETA. Actually, we had a trust deficit in CETA, and that we do not believe that things will turn around. They've assured us that they will look at things differently and they will turn things around. And at the end of that session, we said we now do not have a trust deficit. We have zero trust. So we've moved out of the deficit, Chairperson. But I must also acknowledge that last bullet, Chairperson. The initial impact of the MTT and the acting MD has been positive. I must say that he's been very responsive since the first meeting that he came. He made recommendation, he was open to our recommendations, and he immediately started working on some of these things. So at this stage, Chair, we will continue to work with the acting managing director and with the ministerial task team. We feel that we have a foot in the door now, and we have an ear that's listening to us on that side, either ministerial task team or the acting MD, and we're hoping that we can turn the ship around. The task team is confident that they'll be able to turn the ship around. We are skeptical, but we will give them our full support, Chairperson, because if the intent is there to change things and to turn things around, we cannot do anything else but to work with them. And we're quite confident that our team will give the full support, and we can commit to that. We're just hoping that CETA will bring the part, but as I said, Chairperson, initial indications are that there's a positive change at this stage already. Thanks, Chair. That's it from my side.
Chair, you're on mute. You're on mute.
Oh, apologies. Thank you very much, TG. Honorable members, there you've got the report the presentation as well, very comprehensive and informative report. Are there any questions, points of clarity, opinions or views on the matter that has been received? Honorable Kasim.
Thank you, Chairperson. I just have two questions with regards to slides 2 and 4 of the presentation. I'd like to know, firstly, what are the legal challenges between CETA board members and the minister? And then what is the issue in dispute and why is it going on for so long without being resolved? And then secondly, are there any mechanisms in place to remove the current CETA board members and replace him with competent individuals who have the interests of both the entity and citizens at heart? If I can also just add to one of the other slides before I conclude, in slide 4, it's even made clear that the entity has been performing very poorly over the years with a track record of non-service delivery. For example, one does not have to look far in order to notice that. If I can just make an example, at the poor service delivery in Home Affairs branches across the country, where citizens are always told that the system is down. And this often results in long queues and majority of people being turned back without being able to make the IDs or passports. So we know that heading into election now, what is going to happen to people who cannot vote? Because there's obviously a delay in them applying for IDs as well as for passports. So if I can just get clarity on those questions, please. Thank you.
Chair, can I respond? Oh.
Honorable Selego.
No, Chair, thank you very much. One would appreciate the presentation from the department. And Chair, and I understand I had dealt with CETA from my previous life in the NCOP, specifically on the portfolio of Home Affairs. And I must say, Chair, we have always been having challenges when it comes to this particular service provider. And I just wanted to know from the department, has there been any, talks or engagements between them and the national government, pertaining to maybe in the near future, trying to get another service provider to actually render this particular service, because it is clear over years that this particular service provider is not up to the task of making sure that they fulfill their responsibility in making sure that they assist the relevant departments. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Seleko. Honorable Maseko.
Thank you very much, Chair. I just want to find out, because we do have I think the MINMEC, and I suspect that there is the complaints from any other province, as Member Seleko is saying, also they discussed that. But what are your options? Because now this has been going on for a very long time, and immediately when it impacts negatively on the service delivery, it becomes a problem of the government, because the antis around the ground sees the government that is not working. It's not going to be about CETA. So there need to be maybe the option that is there, or a clause that can be used for you to empower you to do everything that you can for service delivery sake. Do you have something that can empower you to do that, or as we speak now, you are just stuck? There's nothing you can do until CETA gets its house in order. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks very much, Honorable Nkondo.
Thank you, Chair. Can you hear me? Hello? Chair?
Yes, member, please go ahead.
Oh, okay. No, firstly, let me thank the presentation. I think, Chair, the issues that have been raised, and I think we have all, I think if we follow the news, as I think it has been alluded to, that there's been challenges within CETA as an entity, and I think the colleague, I think, is explaining those in his presentation, and the impact of that instability within SETA. So part of what I wanted to suggest is that I think in support of what the engagements that the department is doing, perhaps I'm not sure whether at our level as the SCOPA, just to demonstrate the seriousness, but also the urgency of the matter, is maybe also to write from your side, you know, to the minister's office and asking for a speedy resolution of this matter, because indeed, as Member Maseko is saying, it has got a dire impact onto services because such SETA provides these transversal sort of contracts. So if it is not up to speed, it has got a direct impact, I think, on the departments, you know, where they do not have an alternative, given the fact that such a service is part of this transversal agreements. I thought that could be something from our side, you know, because the matter was raised here at a SCOPA level, unless maybe a suggestion is for such to be done from the Finance Committee. I don't know. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Nkondlo. I don't see any other hands from honorable members. Before I give the DG and the department to answer, just the DG, I see this the very comprehensive report is actually raising quite a lot of serious issues about SETA, which are quite valid in my view. I don't think you will raise these things from the sky. It's based on the experience that we are actually having with them. I just want to ask, have you at some point engaged them directly on some of these issues that are actually being raised? And then also, what has been their response? I must say, although it seems to have been improving, especially towards the last slides, it was indicated by the presenter that there seems to have been some good relations developing, especially with the acting CEO as well as the MTT. Don't know what is the MTT. So I would like to hear what has been their response really in terms of some of these issues when you raise them. Are they cooperating? Because I will be worried that we are raising all these issues, but they've never been raised directly with them. And maybe we might look at some point where maybe we can call them as well. We said, look, these are the concerns we have raised as SCOPA. Can you tell us how far are you addressing them? How are you going to address them? You know, because it's becoming a concern, you know. Those were some of my issues that I would like to raise, honorable members. I see Honorable America did raise his hand. I was going to give him, but I have seen he has ever since withdrawn. I take it, Honorable Nkondlo, that's the previous hand that's still up, ne? Okay, DG.
Chair, thank you very much. I'm going to try and respond to all the issues that's been raised. Firstly, I want to say thank you to the committee, show of appreciation for understanding the seriousness of the matter, and even willing to actually even call SETA to come and account at SCOPA, on some of the matters. So from our side, I really want to express my appreciation, for that, because at the end of the day, the non-delivery of SETA impacts on services and its services of our citizens. Chair, maybe starting with your question, I mean, as I've indicated in the beginning, none of the issues that we are raised here, SETA is not aware of. I mean, from my side, I've met with the SETA CEO initially on a monthly basis, and since the new management team have been instituted, I've actually met with the new management team together with the ministerial task team. So the MTT stands for Ministerial Task Team. That's actually been appointed by the Minister of the DCTT, which is the Department of Communications and Digital Technologies. The matters are serious, Chair. And I mean, if this committee can even resolve to call SETA, to come and account. And what I would actually also suggest is maybe to wait for the outcome of the report from the Ministerial Task Team. Now, the Ministerial Task Team have identified 10 role players, obviously across the entire system where CETA is delivering services to, and they've actually identified us as one of those stakeholders, and that's why they had a full day meeting. And in fact, Chair, the presentation that we're making here today is probably 95% the presentation that we've made the day to the ministerial task team, and the executives of CETA was also involved in that entire discussion. So they're acutely aware of what's happening. I think, as Hilton has indicated, Chair, it's the biggest challenge at CETA is on management leadership level. And I mean, it is very difficult for that institution, given the instability both at a management level as well as some of the issues that's currently playing itself out on a board level. And a lot of those matters are actually, public knowledge. So CETA, in short, is aware of these issues, and it is something that one need to address. The comments from Member Nkontlo, I also fully agree, and thank you, Member Nkontlo, for what you've said. I mean, what CETA is doing, it's definitely impact on the departments. And in fact, Chair, I would actually appreciate it from our side, even before this term even ends, even if you can just write a letter to CETA, or actually to the minister, saying to the minister that you've called our department, you're aware of the ministerial task team that's been appointed, but you, from a oversight committee perspective, understand the seriousness, and you're basically asking, the minister for a view on how he plans to deal with the whole CETA matter. I mean, I'm sure you will probably just respond to say it's appointed a ministerial task team, to identify the issues that's contributing to the backlogs in procurement at CETA, and we'll get back to you once the ministerial task team have provided their support. But I think the points that Member Nkontlo has raised is valid, because ultimately it is about the citizens. And as I said, I mean, I would really, appreciate a letter from your side. Then, Chair, the comments by Member Maseko in terms of the options. Member Maseko, what we're doing is that we are exploring our options at the moment. We are giving the minister the opportunity, now that he's appointed the ministerial task team, to actually look at the recommendations for the ministerial task team and to make a decision based on those recommendations. And it is really, around how they plan to up their game in relation to procurement, and also, what are the plans to actually sort out some of the issues. If we're not going to be happy with the outcomes of that, we may consider other options, and we may even go as far as declaring some form of intergovernmental dispute. And we're also looking currently at the CETA Act, as well as sort of our own mandate in relation to some of these matters. I take it that many of these things, and I mean, even if you go through an intergovernmental dispute process, you will have to show that you've actually gone through the different hoops, because it's basically one government institution taking on another government institution, and we want to also follow the law, because I mean, we also believe in the principles of following the rule of law. Then, Chair, lastly, the comments by Member Seleko on obviously the engagement between CETA and national government. I can confirm that this is not a new matter. In fact, this matter has been discussed at the Forum for South African Director Generals. That's where all the DGs of the different national departments and the provinces meet, where we've expressed our views, on the issues around CETA. We even had the CETA CEO also making a presentation at that particular team. And you can see, Chair, that the matter has actually escalated to the national cabinet level, where Premier also, meet at the extended level, because the minister basically appointed this team. There's a lot of unhappiness, in all the different departments around exactly, the impact that CETA has got. And then, Chair, lastly, on the question that's been raised by Member Kasim, on some of the current issues. Obviously, Chair, this is, or the issues currently at play is between the board, and the let's call it, and the minister. Most of those things are currently public knowledge. It's also the matter, that's currently being considered, within the court process. So it is within that particular process. It relates to the appointment of a new board, the dismissal of an old board, and all the issues that actually goes around it. And then also, obviously, the recent judgment that came out. But we don't want to get involved in that, Chair. I mean, we don't want to express a view on it, and we leave it in the hands of the judiciary to actually make a ruling, on that particular matter. And then, obviously, we will also take that into account when we consider some of our other options that we may have. So, Chair, that takes care of all the responses. I've tried just to pull them all together, But the gist is, Chair, I think as an oversight committee, we'd really appreciate if you can maybe write to them or call them and, have a discussion to just show that you're also serious, about this particular matter. But in the meantime, Chair, as an administration, we will do what we need to do. We will engage CETA continuously on some of these matters. And we want to make sure, obviously, that our uptimes remains as we've committed, and that we actually can do whatever we need to do. But I mean, if we sit with an entity, like CETA, and if they're not going to be able to sort out some of the governance matters, it will impact on the entire system. So thank you, Chair, again, for even allowing us to raise this important matter that impacts on service delivery, with the Standing Committee on Public Accounts. Thank you. Back to you, Chair.
Thank you very much, DG. Honorable Nkondlo, I think that's the previous hand. It looks like Honorable Nkondlo can't hear me, or she's on mute. I think now that we've dealt with this issue, then Honorable DG, HOD, and also the Minister, I think we are finished with your delegation. Once again, Minister, together with your delegation from the department, or I think the Department of the Premier as well. Thank you very much, DG, for always being available whenever we are calling on you and your department to come and explain certain matters to us. Thank you very much. You may be excused as we are going to move to other departments. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to you and your committee, and particularly to my team, and to Linda, to your team. Also, thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, members.
Thanks, thanks, HOD. Now, honorable members, we are moving to the next delegation, which should be the Department of Education, Mr. David. Yeah, I see here in the agenda, in terms of my agenda, is the Department of Education. Yes. Mr. David, is the department in our midst?
Yes, good afternoon, Chairperson. My name is Neil Eli. I'm the CFO for Education Department. I also have my Director for Internal Control, Ms. Wasila Sali, in the meeting, and also my Chief Director for People Management Practices, Mr. Matthijs Cronje. We're in the meeting, Chairperson. Just apologies for my HOD. I think he did render his apology, but he's currently preoccupied with another engagement as well. So just in terms of that protocol, just to render his apologies for this, Chairperson. Chairperson, we've also prepared a presentation. So if you can give me indication of whether I can share the presentation with you or not, and the members.
Please
Thank
go
you.
ahead, Mr. Ella.
Thank you. The Chairperson, can I get indication whether you can see my screen?
Yes, Mr. Ella, we can see it.
Okay, thank you, Chairperson. So if I can then move on to my next slide, Chairperson, just in terms of table of contents, Chairperson. So we're going to talk about the background just in terms of what the finding was about in terms of the AG matter that was raised, Auditor General matter that was raised in our last year's annual report. The resolution by this committee, and then we'll give a bit of some of the briefing in terms of those factors that impacts negatively on our audit finding in terms of progression. And then we'll also talk about the mechanism we introduced to avoid a reoccurrence of this particular finding, Chairperson. So just in terms of general background, Chairperson, the Department of Basic Education provides annually a preliminary list or final list of funds and bursary holders to PEDs who are eligible for employment. It must be noted that the PD, in this case, Provincial Education Department, Western Cape, is not a custodian of the Funza Lusaka bursary holder scheme, and is thus relying on DBE, Department of Basic Education, and also higher education institutions to provide accurate and reliable information to report on the sector output indicator. So, Chairperson, just in terms of explanation, a sector output indicator is where all the education departments in the country and DBE has agreed that this is a national indicator. And obviously it appears in everybody's APPs as well as their annual reports as well in terms of achievement or not. Then just in terms of the technicality again, Chairperson, just in the top of that screen, I'll just indicate the title. It says there that for the SROI 203, which is sector indicator 203, percentage of Funza Lusaka bursary holders placed with in schools within 6 months upon completion of studies or upon confirmation that the bursar has completed their studies as well. So that's just in terms of the overall technicality in terms of the title. I've put on the screen, Chairperson, all the other matters, but I'm not going to talk to those particular issues as well in terms of source of data, etc., and so forth, because I think the committee just want to deal with the finding itself. Then if I can move on, Chairperson. So again, just a confirmation around that in terms of what the indicator is saying. And just to remind the committee that in terms of the last year's results, the achievement of 58.6% was reported against a target of 60% for the financial year 2022-2023 years. However, the audit evidence by the AG by the AG's finding is that the audit evidence didn't support this achievement, and therefore it was materially misstated. Chairperson, just to also note that this was the only finding by the AG, and it also prevented the department from obtaining a clean audit as well. So the resolution again, Chairperson, in terms of reminder that the department obviously briefed the committee, including a mechanism introduced to avoid reoccurrence of the matter relating to the Funza Lusaka bursary holders as well. Chairperson, just to also note that this finding was not there for the last 2 financial years, so it was only a material finding in the last financial reported year as well. So, Chairperson, just in terms of those factors that also influences this particular indicator in terms of the verification and the accuracy thereof, and it's just for the committee to appreciate some of those challenges. So in terms of the first one, higher education institutions can provide all the required evidence due to the POPI Act. There are certain sensitivities around them having to provide personal information. So we have to obviously work within that act to try and obtain that information. The other challenge we have is that DBE doesn't always forward the information that they're supposed to provide to us timelessly, and there are inaccuracies in terms of that, and then also we can't deal with the AG in terms of the turnaround time there, because we are in constant communication with DBE around the source documents that they have to provide to us to support the information in the list that they provide to us. So some of those inaccuracies is around bursary holders who's not eligible for employment. It's also contained in the database that is applied to us. Sometimes there are bursary holders that have completed their studies in prior academic years. So we, as a department, we have to filter that out as well. And then also what happens is they also provide us with information around graduates that's been appointed in other provinces as well. So it is something that we have to, in terms of database and quality assurance, that we have to work ourselves through before we can get to a what I call a more sanitized version of what is expected of the Provincial Education Department as far as placement of these bursary holders are concerned. Then, Chairperson, in terms of trying to then deal with this whole issue to avoid a reoccurrence of that, the department will monitor data list forward by DBE on a weekly and a monthly basis for accuracy. We will introduce additional quality checks. We'll also do some improved procedures and processes, and that's relating to the database and the cleaning up of the databases and lists that DBE provides to us. Then, obviously, we introduce more oversight. So the director and those officials that's dealing with this database and information that they receive from DBE, they will provide more ongoing feedback to their supervisor, which is the chief director in this particular case, and therefore obviously includes oversight as well. The other thing that we've also identified is that the databases information we get from DBE is in Excel format, and it is something we have to filter through. So we're also going to provide some training to our staff so that they can, improve we're going to call the Excel skills when dealing with this particular aspect there as well. Then, Chairperson, what we've also done in terms of this particular aspect, we have written letters to DBE to see how we can improve the situation, because as I indicated, they're the source for the information and the list they provide to us. So we've asked them for requesting a final list, which is basically already filtered for us as evidence set that we can provide to the Auditor General. And we've also asked them for more ongoing and timeless submission of the placement list, because unfortunately, when it gets to the stage of having to submit the information to the AG, it puts pressure on the department to actually provide, to apply more quality assurance processes. So we've asked them to do that more timeless, and gives us time to go through that list, to clean it up and pick up mistakes wherever that is. We've also requested the DBE to engage with the Auditor General, because of the sector audit, sector indicator around the technical indicator for this performance indicator, so that there's more clarity and and it allows us to really get to a point where we don't have to provide too many more explanations to the AG around the indicator itself. Yeah, Chairperson, just lastly, before questions, so we have received commitments from DBE around some of the things that we requested from them. And therefore we are quite confident, Chair, given the DBE's commitment, that they will provide us with a more accurate list, and they would have cleaned out the databases and in the list that they supplied to us. And in our side, Chairperson, as I indicated in my presentation, that we will do certain quality assurance processes to make sure that when we provide information to the Auditor General, that it's in terms of the nominator and the denominator, that database is more accurate, and it's been already been cleaned up, and we did get enough time to then deal with the aspects and the findings that AG has raised in the past as well, and to try and avoid a recurrence of that. So, Chairperson, on that note, I'm then willing to take questions from the committee. Thank you.
Honorable members, I see Honorable Kasim. Please go ahead, Honorable Kasim.
Thank you, Chairperson, and thank you for the presentation as well. I just have two questions on this presentation. On slide 7, regarding the negative impact for the audit findings, what is the reason for the Funda Lusaka bursary recipients from this province to end up being appointed in other provinces? And then also, does the province have capacity to absorb all of the graduates who are the beneficiaries of this bursary to teaching post? Just those two for now. Thank you.
Chairperson, do you want me to respond to those two questions?
Please go ahead, Mr. Ella.
Okay, thank you. Chairperson, in terms of the first question, In terms of the Provincial Cycle graduates, they obviously have a choice once they graduated, which province they want to work. And that's where the some of the confusion comes in terms of the DBE list. But again, they have the choice of which province they want to go and work in. And then secondly, in terms of the capacity issues that the member has raised, Chairperson, if I can just provide a brief background explanation. What happens here is the provinces, and in this particular case, the Western Cape Education Department, identify those subjects which they need teachers in. And based on that, those bursary holders will then apply in the Western Cape. And normally we do have capacity because those subjects that we've indicated are normally the scarce subjects as well. So we do have capacity to take in those bursary holders as well. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thanks, Mr. Alai. Honorable members, any further questions, comments, points of clarity? If there is none, this brings us to the end of the presentation of the department. Let me make use of this opportunity to thank you, Mr. Alai, and your team and your colleagues, those that accompanied you. Thank you very much. We appreciate the fact that the department is always available when it's being called to come and assist the committee in terms of finding clarity and explanation on various issues and challenges in the department. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you, Chairperson. Thank you, members. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Now, honorable members, that brings us to the end of the presentations as they were going to be presented, as we've agreed that we're not going to take the presentations of the department that deals with the issues of the township revitalization. Now, I did indicate and ask the procedural officer regarding the issue of SAPAC. Are there any SAPAC issues maybe, Mr. David, you would like to bring to our attention?
Chairperson, there is nothing. Just to let everyone know, including yourself, that there was a SAPAC EXCO meeting last Friday, Chair. But the support staff were not allowed to sit in that MS Teams meeting. But I will get feedback. I'm actually awaiting feedback from Mr. Simon, the SAPAC Secretariat, feedback of the minutes of what happened in that meeting, and then I will forward it on to the SCOPA members, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Mr. David. Now, honorable members, then if there is no further issues, I know that we might have, this might be our penultimate meeting. We might have honorable, which one? Whose hand is up?
Honorable Nkondlo.
Honorable Nkondlo.
Chair, I don't know, my hand function is not working. I wanted to ask what has happened to the. Can I ask?
Honorable Nkondlo.
Hello, Chair. Yes,
Honorable
can you
Nkondlo.
hear me? Yes.
Yes.
Yes, I heard you, but I didn't hear you well as you were passing that the presentation on the Department of Economic Development. I could not hear what you were saying because I thought that was the next item.
Oh, unfortunately, Honorable Nkondlo, when I gave the item, the explanation at the beginning of the meeting, we were still not in the meeting.
Okay.
It was actually one of the first items we dealt with, though it was the fourth item, but I did explain to members that I was approached by the Honorable Minister Wenge during the State of the Province address, where she was raising some concern around the issue of the interpretation or the representation of the issue, that the matter in a way that was, they were happy to make the presentation, but she was feeling that it's not the committee's role or responsibility. As Honorable Maseko and I think Honorable America further said that it was an overreach on the side of the committee to deal with the matter. Although I did suggest to them that, look, I don't have a problem with that, but it might be good because there were also members of the public who were interested on the item, that maybe it can be referred to the committee that deals with economic opportunities and tourism, because it's related there. But then there were issues that were raised by members that no, they feel that we cannot, as the committee, prescribe to other committees what they must deal with. So in that regard, I just said that, okay, it's fine if that's the majority of members that are feeling like that, that will be the resolution of the committee. But then I will request that if maybe the procedural officer can just give us a procedural advice on the matter as to how do we deal with this matter forward, because that matter did not fall from the sky. It did not come itself here. There was a resolution, but then along the way, if there were difference of or members felt differently, I don't have a problem with that, but maybe so that we prevent something like that happening in the future, if the procedural advice, the procedural officer can just give us a procedural advice on the matter as to how do we deal with them in the future. So that's how we've dealt with the matter. And then now I know that there were some issues we raised on all the presentation, honorable members. Are there any resolution you'd like us to take on the matters? First, starting with the issue that was raised on the first item was around the issues of the targets and the budget. And then we dealt with the issues of the SETA and all its challenges, and also we dealt with the matter of the Funza Lusaka. Are there any resolution issues you'd like to raise on the issues? Going once, going twice, gone. So that means that they are not.
Chairperson, my hand function is not working. I don't know what's going on.
Honorable Ngondo.
Yes, Chair. Chairperson, as we are doing resolutions on all matters that were dealt with in the SCOPA as part of the agenda of today, there's a proposal that I had made on the matter of SETA, and I'm not sure because I didn't hear you what was the conclusion on the matter of SETA. The second one, Chair, is that I'm not sure by when are we going to get the procedural advice on the matter of a Pick and Pay, because that matter emanated from the audit report during the period when we're doing audit. So I fail to understand that when a matter emanates from a SCOPA engagement, then that matter is just referred, because there has been those issues also in the past where we would say if a matter emanates from resolutions of the audit, SCOPA still has to hear those matters and either invite the relevant standing committee. So I'm not sure why on this particular matter that actually there is there is actually no appetite for a matter to be discussed here as something that emanated from the process of the audit, because we're talking about the financial aspect of the money of the state that was given to Pick and Pay to support township businesses. So I'm not understanding why are we refuting that matter to be discussed here and invite then the Standing Committee of Economic Development, and notwithstanding that now that this matter is being brought here and we are already almost closing this particular administration, this could be a delaying tactic to send this matter to the next administration, which I believe it is not fair and it's injustice to those who are interested on the matter and the matter that was dealt with by this administration. So I would have been interested to hear what is the procedural advice, because we can't wait later, because this matter was on the agenda of SCOPA on this particular meeting.
Thank you very much, Honorable Kondlo. The way I understand it, I think on our next meeting, the procedural advice can be presented. But as I said, that this is our penultimate meeting before the meeting of the last, because there are certain administrative issues we still need to deal with as a committee and finalize and put them to rest, as I was advised by Mr. Davids. Honorable Maseko.
I'm sorry, Chair, I would love to be excused. I need to go somewhere that I have an emergency. So if it's okay with you, if I can be excused, I'll appreciate it.
No, you are excused, Honorable Maseko. I understand. You don't have to ask as if I'm going to refuse. Please. No, thank you very much, Honorable Maseko. To finalize the matter, honorable members, on the issues, I think if Honorable Nkondlo, you want to raise a resolution on the SITA, because I did ask members, are there any resolution that they would like to ask? If there's a resolution, you can propose and we go with that accordingly. The other issue, I think, I don't know, how do the members feel on the matter of the SITA? I personally, it's something I feel very strongly about. I would like to hear what they're actually going to say. If we can say, look, these are the issues that are being raised. Of course, we know at the end of the day, they are a national entity. We can only invite them. I don't think we can, what they normally say, use the words, harsh words, summon them. They might be able to enlighten us on quite a number of things that they've raised. Honorable America.
Chairperson, no, you've taken the words out of my mouth. I don't know if we're going to have time to do that, but certainly extending an invitation to them to come give an explanation to us in terms of the delay in procurement, I would support that. But I'm not so sure whether we're going to have time in this term yet still to do that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable America. Honorable Mr. Davids.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, just in terms of timelines, Chair, it's basically the WCPP is bogged down with legislation from the NCOP that it's busy with. All the standing committees, they are busy, Chair. The last meeting for SCOPA is next Wednesday between 12:30 and 1 o'clock virtually, where it can discuss, or the members can discuss what they want to do further, Chair. But as Member America said, just in terms of timeline, Chair, and just to be realistic, after the appropriations period, Chairperson, from the 14th, 15th, 16th of March, after that, the members are going to go into the constituencies, are going to prepare for the upcoming elections, Chairperson. So that's the period when there's, normally speaking now, for about 3 parliamentary terms from the middle of March till after the elections, Chair, there's nothing happening at WCPP unless the committee wants special meetings, etc. That can be arranged, but normally, Chairperson, the procedure is that the members are in their constituency and they're busy preparing an electioneering for the upcoming elections, Chair. So our only meeting will be next week.
Okay, I think on next week's meeting, Mr. Davids, I know we'll be finalizing all our outstanding administrative issues of the committee that we need to finalize, like approving all the reports, a quarterly report, and even our annual expenditures and the likes. Yes. But then obviously at the same time, please also present to us just the procedural thing. But also I think there maybe let's take this matter further. Let members have time to think about it so that we can see how we can deal with it in terms of the issue of CETA. If there's a strong feeling about it, how do we think we can actually deal with it? I'm sure by that time when we meet, members will have already have some thoughts on how do we deal with it.
No problem, Chair. Thank you.
In that regard, then, honorable members, if there is nothing, this brings us to the end of the meeting. Thank you once again for being available whenever you have been called to the committee and attend to its members. I'm looking forward to seeing you on our next meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair. Have a lovely day.
Bye.
Bye.